walking over with Danielle, who is here at LifeDesigns. And Danielle, tell us where we're going and what we're about to see.
Okay, so this is the building where Crawford II is going to be, and that is permanent supportive housing for people with chronic homelessness and disabilities. We've had the first program for over 4 years now, and we're about to double the size of our program to 83 housing units.
Person who's taking yours.
Here we go.
So our offices are down here on the right. Yeah. Or on the left. No, on the right, I'm sorry.
We have a hygiene pantry in Crawford where people can earn points by doing pretty much anything productive.
Okay.
So they can do chores around the building, or they can attend a community meeting, or like they'll get points for that Narcan training last night. If they go to a doctor's appointment, or if they have a job, they earn points, and then they trade that in for hygiene supplies and cleaning supplies for their apartment. Because even the people who can get food stamps can't buy those products, food stamps. Oh my God, yeah, there's a doorbell.
It's for the microwave, which I think is really cool. It is cool.
This is good. I have lived in very few apartments that are this nice.
Seriously. My apartment wasn't this nice.
No. Danielle, this is going to become someone's home who's been living on the streets possibly for years.
We've moved people in who were on the streets for 25 years. And people who got kicked out when they were 16 years old and never went and found a home.
What is the limit on people that you can take right now? How many people could you do with both facilities? And what you've got out in the community?
It'll be 83 units altogether. And so we have 25 here, and there will be 36 here, and then we have 9, it will be 16 scattered site, 1-bedroom units, and then we have 6 family units that all have at least 3 to 8 people living in.
Okay.
So right now we're serving about 62 people with 40 units. And so we expect it to be a similar number with the second project, but we won't have, we're not adding any more family units or units specifically for families. So that will lower the number a little bit.
So that doesn't obviously take care of all the homeless people in Bloomington or all the homeless people in Monroe County or even the people that qualify for your services. What does that problem look like? How big is it?
Well, so we select who is going to get a unit based on their vulnerability, and we use an assessment called the VI SPDAT that's given to us by the state, and we ask questions about physical health, mental health, addiction, history of trauma and abuse, head injury, even do you have any planned activities that make you happy other than just trying to survive. So the more answers they answer in the affirmative, the more vulnerable they are. And that assessment goes up to a 17. We only have one person on the list right now that's a 17. You do have to be elderly to get that final point. So most of our highest vulnerable people are 16s, and you qualify for permanent supportive housing if you score a 9. When we fill all of these units up, we will clear out the 16s, the 15s, and maybe all of the 14s. It's possible we might even take a couple of 13s. So that will leave everybody from 9 to 13. And it's about an equal amount of people. So we won't be leaving behind the highest vulnerability people, but we will be leaving behind people who are vulnerable enough to be considered to need permanent assistance to stay housed.
Right. But you're taking care of around 50%, it sounds like, of the people that you've assessed to be the most vulnerable.
Right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are. And then, over time, as other people who don't qualify, who haven't been homeless for a full 12 months, those same people next year are going to become chronically homeless because they will have been out for 12 months. So, we're trying to solve the problem of chronic homelessness, and what we want to do is keep adding more and more units until everyone who qualifies for this type of housing is housed.
So I'm sitting here with Craig, and Craig, can you tell us a little bit about your story and just kind of give us a rundown of your history?
Okay, well, but if it hadn't been for this place, I probably would have been dead by now. I mean, I lived down on the street, got frostbite, lost both of my feet amputated. And thank God for Crawford, you know, took me off the streets and gave me a place to live. And, you know, like I said, it hadn't been for them, I'd probably be dead by now.
That's good. Can I ask you how you ended up on the streets in the first place?
Say that again?
Can I ask you how'd you end up on the streets in the first place?
Drugs, alcohol, losing jobs, just not caring except for that next drink or drug. And, you know, that's what I chased after every day.
How long?
I'm talking maybe 25 years.
Wow.
Are you in the street
I'm 7 now. I'm getting too old for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, were you on the street for 25 years?
Almost, yeah.
Almost?
But, you know, now I've got a little bit of responsibility. Because out here I didn't have no responsibility.
Yeah.
I didn't care, you know, except chase that next buzz. But at least here I pay rent, I pay my cable bill, I get a monthly bus pass, try to help other people around here, my neighbors, you know, and I tried to save 2 of them so far. One of them's in the hospital now. He's in a wheelchair, and he's asked me to check on it. First one was Todd, but he's deceased. I checked on him a little too late. These people will ask me to check on him every day, and I try to do my best. I'm not God. I'm not a doctor.
So that whole time you were on the streets, you were here in Bloomington?
Yes.
And what's it been like to get off the streets? I mean, has that been...
Beautiful.
Oh, okay. What was it like? Was there an adjustment period for you where you had to get used to not being on the streets? I mean,
Yeah, get used to being in here. I didn't sleep for about a week. It's like,
you didn't sleep for a week when you were in here?
No, I was hard. 'Cause I wasn't used to having, you know, my own home and responsibility and everything else. So, you know.
A lot of people sleep on the
It
floor.
was kind of hard, but I adjusted now.
Wow.
I adjusted. So, by the grace of God, I'm blessed because I'm still here.
Good deal.
So, you know,
Good deal. And they're keeping you honest, huh?
Yeah.
All right, good deal.
Yeah. So, that's all I can say. You know, I just thank God for this place and people who care for me around here, like Danielle and everybody, all caseworkers, you know.
Well, you can tell they care.
Yeah.
It's important we care about each other.
Love is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Tell me, if you had control of government, right? You had control of, you're queen for a day, you get to do whatever you want, what would you do?
I mean, really, I would do more permanent supportive housing. You know, we have this model that we're trying to work with now where our whole system to deal with homelessness is set up around maintaining homelessness. You know, we have to make sure that people get fed while they're homeless. We have to make sure that people get a shelter to go to while they're homeless. Well, a lot of places, if they're even lucky enough to have a homeless shelter, they can come in at bedtime and spend the night, and then they get kicked out in the morning. And during the day, when they could be working on getting housing or trying to find a job or something, they have nowhere to go. And nobody's helping them. Why are we pouring all of our money into a place to sleep for the night when we could be putting more money into housing for people who are homeless? And then we wouldn't need as much of a social services system for people who are homeless because there would just be less people homeless.
If you implement these kind of strategies, you know, on a larger scale, nationwide or bigger metropolitan areas at least, right? Isn't it too expensive?
It's not expensive compared to the cost of people being homeless. People who are homeless get arrested for things that, I mean, if you and I had to do everything we do in a day, in a 24-hour period, in public, we would get arrested too. You know, they get arrested for relieving themselves because nobody will let them in their business to use their bathroom, so they have to do it outdoors. They get arrested for that. If they have a drinking problem, they get arrested for public intox. Whereas if they're in their apartment drinking, they don't get arrested. So, you know, we're seeing the expense of the criminal justice system. And then generally these are people who have mental health and physical health problems too. And so you see them in the emergency rooms, which everyone knows is the most expensive part of healthcare, is emergency rooms. And now that we've had the Medicaid expansion, almost everybody that we work with who's homeless now has health insurance. So now it's costing Medicaid all this money for people to be homeless because they have all these health problems that are directly created by them being on the street, like Craig losing his feet. You know, Medicaid paid for that. There are costs to Medicaid and costs to the hospital that are just directly caused by homelessness, by the physical danger that people are in from being homeless. So $600 a month for an apartment, that's just nothing compared to what it costs to have people on the street.
Okay, so we're here talking to Billy, and Billy is a resident here at LifeDesigns, and he's got a bike project that he's working on. He's going to tell us about it.
Okay. Yeah, I was working at this place. Samantha gave me a job. She came here. She was doing this little game night. That's how it all began. And she said, we can get you a job. Come over here, but you have to join this this outfit that is called, trying to think of what it's called.
Experience Works.
Wasn't,
Experience Works.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so they give you a little kind of a step up kind of a thing where they give you 18 hours a week minimum wage kind of jobs mostly. And since like New Leaf, New Life is this little tiny nonprofit place that Perry Township lets them stay in their office there. At the time, Sam was the manager. And so that was the key thing for me to work there. Just one day I just started working on a bicycle, and I found out, you know, like I could bring it back. It was like this old piece of junk, and you know, I'm pretty good with my hands. So started working on this bike one day, and I had in mind I was just gonna give it away to somebody that didn't have any transportation. So I was able to pull that off, and then it kind of led into another one, and then it snowballed a little bit, and I found out there's a lot of different kinds of bikes now, so I had to learn how to work on all these different bikes. And it was all used parts. I got hooked up with the bike project eventually, but Shalom was mainly behind it. Deanne, this caseworker, came down there, and she tried to help me with it. One day she got me a grant.
How many have you fixed up?
It's probably around 300 now, but it's a couple of years, 2.5 years old, then. It struggles, it has up, you know, like I have a high period and then it'll go down. And just things kind of gelled for me because I was really good at fixing them. And I built tools up gradually, used tools, mainly from Restore, and then I started working at Restore, so whenever tools came in, I would always cop up on buying tools. And then eventually, you know, where I was doing like a chain and I'd have to go through the chain links, there's over 100 chain links on a bike, and usually somebody leaves it out in the yard, gets rusted. I'd have to go through the chain to fix it. It would take me like an hour. I finally built tools up where I can just replace the chain, and I know how to align the wheels, so a lot of times the brakes won't work. I got really good at it, so it just wound up being little tiny idea, and it wound up being actually a pretty good idea for a lot of the people that are homeless. Again, just derived out of this whole thing. When I was homeless, I had a couple of jobs. I couldn't get to them hardly.
Mm-hmm.
And Bloomington's small enough that you can access, you know, a little job, maybe ride a bike for a month, and then, you know, save up enough money for a car. It's like a stepping stone thing.
When did you come to Crawford?
It was not right when it opened. It was a few months later. You're like on a list, and somehow I'm not really sure what the situation was, but I guess somebody lived here and then they left or something. Don't know what the circumstance was. And my name was on that list, and a lot of people cared about me at Shalom. I had a lot of friends, and so they you know, pretty much saved my life by letting me come here. And then not only that, like the bike thing wouldn't exist without this place. Living here has been just wonderful. I mean, I do stay up to myself. For me, a lot of the people that I was on the street with, they're kind of the same way that they were. What I did when I came here, I was always trying to stop the alcohol thing, because I got into the alcohol thing when I went homeless. I became an alcoholic.
How long ago was that?
2011, I came to Bloomington. Within probably the first year, I was an alcoholic. I was playing music in the street. It was really easy to get it. If you didn't have any money, somebody else might let you drink. I was really depressed. I'd lost most of my family, and didn't really have that much of a reason to keep going. When I got here, I quit drinking. I was
3 days.
Yeah.
3 days?
Quit drinking
It
3
was
days. after
really
moving in.
kind of like, I wanted to quit. You know, this was the thing. I wanted to quit when I was homeless, and I couldn't. Was going around all these places, and really you couldn't do anything. I had this thing. I remember it was a 30-day rule. Like if you wanted to go to Amethyst House, or if you wanted to get off the alcohol, you already had to be sober. It was like if you couldn't do it on your own, you couldn't get help. I couldn't find any. I had a lot of support from just people, and but I would have died many times over. I was that far gone with it.
When you wanted to quit and didn't have the didn't have the services available to you.
So yeah, so this place, it has a whole different definition to me. Where a lot of people came here just to maybe live out, you know, just try to maintain survival. It became a place where I could redeem myself somewhat.